Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, the TEDxTzu School leadership. I see guest speakers here, parents, students of the TEDxTzu School. Thank you for inviting me. Apparently, this is the first TEDx event at the school, so it's an honor for me to be here and share with you my thoughts on sustainability and ESG from a banking regulator's perspective. So first of all, I would like to tell you that I also finished the MYP and the IB diploma program many years ago. So I hope that the topics that you'll learn today from my session, from the other speakers' session, will be useful for your personal project or extended essay. I went through that process as well. I know it's a very tiring process, but it's a very exciting process, and you'll definitely learn a lot from it. So probably the first question I would like to raise is that, why am I here? I'm a financial regulator. What do I have to do with climate change? I mean, my main job is supposed to be maintaining the safety and soundness of our financial system, our banking industry, to make sure that banks are well capitalized. They have ample liquidity. So I know many of you here probably are taking business management or econs as one of your humanities subject in your IB diploma. You might have heard of like bank runs in the past before in previous crisis episodes. Well, our main job is supposed to protect banks from taking a lot of risks and from such situations from happening again. So why am I here talking about climate change? Well, climate change itself has two main risk drivers to the financial sector, in particular the banking industry. We can classify them into two, which is the physical risk and the transition risk. I'll explain more about that later in my talk, but these two risk drivers, it could manifest itself into 5 out of 8 main risks in the banking sector. They are credit risk, liquidity risk, market risk, operational risk, and reputational risk. But most literature so far have been talking about their impacts on credit risk. Well, physical risk is basically the economic damages that happens as a result of the increasing severity and frequency of natural disasters. Think about flooding or droughts or wildfires. If these events keep on happening with more frequency and with greater intensity, I mean, let's say you can see like property being damaged, and think about this property being used as collateral for financial institutions or for banks. It could cause risk for the bank. And then imagine a farmer, let's say. The farmer produces crops, but their crop yield is reduced because of severe droughts or because of flooding. And the farmer borrows from the bank. And this could cause also higher risk for banks if this is not taken care of. Transition risk, in simple ways or in simple words, could be described as the risk that happens because we move too fast towards a net zero or a low carbon economy. I'll just give 2 quick examples on this. Let's say the first example is tomorrow there's a new policy stating that all cars sold on the market must be electric cars, or no more internal combustible engine cars on the road tomorrow, or stop using coal as an electricity source for the next day or tomorrow. This could cause severe disruption in economic activities of people that rely on this. Let's say a car producer or a manufacturer who's not ready to produce all electric cars. But then again, there's a trade-off between these two risks, physical risk and transition risk. If you transition too quickly, the physical risk definitely would be lower, but the transition risk would be higher. But vice versa, the situation also happens. Let's say if you transition too late, I mean, now you won't feel the effects of climate change, but at the end, especially let's say 30, 50 years on from now, you'll see that the physical risk impact will be more severe. So it's not a good situation, and you need to find the balance between how to mitigate these two risks together. Okay, but before I go on to describe how do these risks are taken account into the banking sector, it's pretty much to say that we need to introduce the concept of ESG or sustainability or the impact of climate change slowly and gradually to our financial sector. Because these are new risks, and it's a risk that will happen, let's say, in 50 or 100 years from now. So you have to do it gradually. And how we do it was that exactly, let's say, 10 years ago, we started planning on developing a roadmap for sustainable finance. So the first edition of the roadmap, it was issued in 2015. And then the main aim of the roadmap was basically for us to get more knowledge, to share more knowledge to the industry about sustainable finance and how it impacts them. The way how we do that was that we first issued a regulation in 2017, which basically requires financial institutions and publicly listed companies to submit 2 documents annually to the Financial Services Authority, which is the Sustainable Finance Action Plan and the Sustainability Report. So it's a sort of like introduction for them to like, please introduce to your stakeholders, which includes investors here, to disclose about your sustainability practices. And this regulation was gradually implemented. So first applied to the largest banks and to public companies, and then to other non-bank financial institutions, and then to the smaller rural banks in Indonesia. After that, also in the same year, we issued a regulation on green bonds. So an issuer can issue these bonds to finance what we call the 11 sustainable business activities. And to date, our green bond market here in Indonesia is the largest, is one of the largest, if not the largest, in Southeast Asia. We have a lot of private issuers oversubscribing when they issue their green bonds. And then the third hallmark of that roadmap is that one activity that I actually participated in just 1 week before COVID hit here in Indonesia, which is a capacity building program for both regulators, supervisors, and the financial industry to understand better about sustainable finance. And this program was a very hands-on one. I'm glad that I participated in it actively, not just like observing the workshop. And we got to visit a hydropower plant. So the workshop was in West Java, in Bandung. And that visit sort of reminded me of the school field trips I had in high school when I did the IB diploma program. But it was an eye-opening experience for me, and it's something that, for me, it made me understand not just from the financial aspects of the issue of sustainable finance, but I also learned about the regulations in the energy sector, also in the environmental sector under those ministries, and how we assess sustainability for a given project. That roadmap's timeline was up until 2019, and in 2021, we issued the second phase of the Sustainable Finance Roadmap. Basically, this roadmap, to sum up, has like 3 main things that are in it, which we have done so far. So the first one is that last year we issued the first version of the Indonesian Green Taxonomy. The taxonomy classifies 900 business activities or economic activities based on their sustainability status. It's a publicly available document on our website, so you can see that which business activities are classified as green, yellow, or red based on their impact to the environment. The taxonomy is a living document, and it will be continuously updated to reflect the current conditions here in Indonesia and also regionally and globally. The second milestone of the roadmap is on the carbon trading and the carbon exchange. As you might have been aware, last month we just launched the first carbon exchange platform in Indonesia. And we have many hopes that the platform could help increase the awareness and also the demand for more sustainable products here in Indonesia, sustainable financial products in Indonesia. And then the third one, which we are starting to developing, is integrating that climate risk stress testing for banks. And this is the one that is still in a work in process, because to do that, you need a lot of data that is very granular, very detailed. And then we have to work hand in hand alongside with the industry to develop this framework. Because it's not simple, because also the timeline and the time horizon, it's very long term. So we just released the guidelines to do that kind of exercise in July of this year. And we will continue to monitor and develop the stress testing framework, mindful of the development and the capability of the industry. What we have done here nationally in Indonesia, I would like to say to you, is in line what is done on a more global level. For the banking regulation side, the main international setting body is called the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. It's based in the city of Basel in Switzerland. Its members include the leading central banks and financial regulatory authorities in the world, including from Indonesia. And then this body has put climate change and its impact to banks as one of their priority agendas and emerging risks. There's a dedicated task force to address the issues on climate risks in this committee. And last year, the committee issued its first document on how regulatory bodies and supervisory agencies could use as a basis to regulate and supervise banks' approach to mitigate climate change. It looks at the governance principles on how to do that, looks at the capital adequacy, and risk management, among other things that the document looks at. There's like 12 factors included in that document. So it's a high-level overview of what should be done for the financial institutions and for regulators to mitigate the climate change issue. On the other hand as well, there's also this international standard setting body called the IFRS, which is the body which is responsible for setting international accounting standards around the world. They are also developing some kind of framework to enhance the disclosure of climate-related risks in companies and financial institutions. We are also developing something related to that, and it's in line with what is happening around the globe. So as you can see, climate change is an issue that is not just an issue that is inherent or should be the concern of environmental or energy ministries, but it is also an issue that is of main concern for financial regulators around the world, especially here in Indonesia. You might know that there's this Paris Agreement that was signed in 2016, which has a commitment of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by a certain amount of percent for each country, and to limit the rise in global temperatures by 1.5 degrees Celsius. The government of Indonesia has ratified the Paris Agreement in 2016, and it's up to each ministry or institution or state or government institution to help Indonesia achieve its goal written in the Paris Agreement, and to help the global goals on the more macro or the more broader scale. So to sum up, again, we are also concerned from the financial regulatory perspective on climate change. It's an issue that it's not a side issue. It's one of the main priorities and main challenges that we must tackle, and I do encourage more and more research or more study, especially from the audience here who might be interested in sustainability issues. If you want to look at sustainability or climate change from a financial perspective, it's a good topic to look into starting from now, because again, as other speakers also have said, climate change is an issue that will impact the future generation, and then it's up to us to deliver or issue measures to mitigate it properly so that the planet doesn't warm too quickly that makes it uncomfortable for us. Thank you.